So, last time we covered the Moro arc, and now we can get into the final stretch of the manga. I'll start with a few ground rules in case this is your first time. Essentially, I don't like the guidebooks, as a lot of stats from them are clearly incorrect. That means all of my stats are interpreted from the manga itself. Another thing to mention is how the god form being absorbed in base never actually happened in the manga. And additionally, I don't think the god forms are nearly as strong here as they are in the anime, as there's a lot of examples showing the god forms only performing slightly better than the previous super forms. Now that that's covered, I'll start by saying Goku and Vegeta reached 2 trillion in base last time. Alright, let's get into it. We start with Granolah stealing 7-3 from some pirates. As they say that all the OG units have been updated to the same level as 7-3, the prisoners say they trained OG 7-3 to reach the level that he was at. So, if he's considered strong, then that would put him something like a bit above 2,000, and we see Granolah take all of them down pretty easily. Additionally, we see Alec call Granolah crazy strong, so I'm gonna put him at like 16,000, as that would be considered extremely powerful on a galactic scale. However, we see that the strongest Heater gas is actually much stronger, so I put him at like 30,000, which is above Zarbon and Dodoria, but below Ginyu Force level. While that happens, Beerus feels bad for Vegeta, who's being left out, so he starts teaching him how to use destruction energy. Now we get some exposition about Granolah, and how his planet has Dragon Balls. So of course, we gotta complain about Granolah's wish here. So basically, the dragon says it can't make Granolah any stronger than whatever untapped potential he already has. But what it can do is exchange part of Granolah's lifespan, and it will act as if he trained intensely for however many years he sacrifices. Now, I don't have any issue with that, but the problem is how strong he actually gets. He becomes slightly stronger than Ultra Instinct Goku. Since Goku has had some time to train and get used to his form, let's round his Ultra Instinct multiplier from 9.6 million to 10 million, just so everything is a bit easier. So that makes Goku 20 quintillion. And let's say Granolah is 21 quintillion after his wish. So like, it just feels cheap that anyone can sacrifice most of their lifespan and become casually strong enough to destroy galaxies. It really belittles all of the hard work Goku has put in that it's just this easy to surpass him. The dragon also says that he can only become stronger than mortals, not the gods. But as we went over in the Tournament of Power, this actually does make Granolah stronger than most of the gods of destruction, as we're now much stronger than Jiren, who was stronger than Belmod. It really feels like Toyotaro just arbitrarily decided he still wants our characters to be below god level, despite the series itself contradicting him. So, just like I mentioned in the last part, this is why we need to scale Beerus and his 2 rivals higher than the other gods of destruction. Okay, back to the manga. So after this wish, Granolah gets a sick new cut, which he trims immediately. I kinda wish he kept the long hair, I liked it better. After that, he fights Oil and Maki. It seems like Alec thinks that the previous Granolah would have lost to them, so let's put them at 17,000. And finally, near the end of the arc, it's revealed that Alec himself is actually the weakest, so let's put him at like 14,000. After that, the Heeters set up their plan to take out Granolah and the Saiyans. You know, I know he needs to not recognize them for the plot to work, but it's kinda weird that Vegeta doesn't know who the Heeters are. Vegeta was a big deal, one of Frieza's top enforcers, and the Heeters did lots of business with Frieza, but I guess it's possible they never met in person. Okay, now we can get into the fighting section of the arc. Goku learns how to tap into Ultra Instinct combined with all of his forms, but I don't think it specifically raises his battle power, it just greatly improves his reaction time and possibly increases his durability. Starting out, they fight in Super Saiyan at 100 trillion, but once they meet face to face, Goku steps it up to Super Saiyan God, reaching 1.6 quadrillion. Eventually, we jump up to Blue, elevating Goku to 80 quadrillion. But that still isn't enough, so Goku busts out his full power, the Ultra Instinct form, boosting him to 20 quintillion. It appears that Granolah is going to lose, but it's revealed that he had split his power into a clone before the fight, and since Goku's form weakens over time, it unintentionally helped Granolah stall Goku to the point that he could easily one-shot him. Vegeta takes over and jumps to full power immediately at 1.6 quintillion. Considering he's almost 20 times weaker than Granolah, this might be tough for Vegeta. Now, you know guys, Even though this arc isn't specifically about Vegeta, he's really the star of this arc. He really steals the show here. His speech about how much he loves battle just for the sake of it, and his ultimate realization that he couldn't completely let go of his attachments are both amazing moments. But before he comes to that conclusion, in the heat of battle, he ascends to an even higher level, that being the mighty Ultra Ego. Notably, God of Destruction Toppo doesn't happen in the manga, so this is the first time we're seeing anything like this. Vegeta does seem to perform at a similar level as Goku, so I would put it around the same level as Ultra Instinct Goku at 20 quintillion. You might think that means Granolah is still stronger, but that's when Ultra Ego's signature power kicks in, the power to grow as he takes damage. This briefly lets him surpass Granolah at 22 quintillion, but Granolah counters with a power-up of his own. Now, I'm not sure if he actually gets more powerful, or if he just gains the ability to use all of his sniper attacks with both hands, as opposed to only one like before. I say this because he really doesn't seem to power up all that much, as soon afterwards, Goku is still able to keep up with him in blue, using Ultra Instinct to narrowly avoid Granolah's vital attacks. It just doesn't seem like he's got a massive power-up. But we could put him a little bit above Vegeta's elevated level, at like 23 quintillion. And this leads us into the big flashback. During said flashback, we get a rare actual power level, as Bardock decides to save Granolah and his mother for reminding him of his wife and son. We specifically see Monaito at 213, which is of course very low, but this does make him stronger than Krillin at the start of Dragon Ball Z, who was at 206. Unfortunately for them, they get into an encounter with the Heeters, and Bardock takes on Gas. This takes place a very long time before the current story, and it's heavily implied Gas has become a lot stronger since then. Even back during the flashback though, he's portrayed as a big deal, so I'd put him at like 10,000. He's already beating Bardock pretty easily, then he taps into his transformation. Gas says he's not using the full potential of his transformation, so I'll boost him to 12,000. Here, Bardock is weaker than Gas. Let's put him a bit over 8,000. Of course, things look bad for Bardock, but his single-minded goal of winning seems to let him become stronger mid-battle.
The ability to improve during battle is in our blood. It's what makes Saiyans the ultimate warrior race.
Now, in the Super Anime, this sort of thing is extremely common, but in the manga, our characters basically never get stronger mid-battle, without some kind of transformation. The only previous exception being Vegeta's My Bulma scene. So this seems to be a new power that Bardock can tap into. In fact, Bardock was a low-class Saiyan, so the idea that he's at 8,000 was already kinda confusing, as that's the kind of stats you would expect to see from only the most elite Saiyans. But it seems like his mindset has given Bardock the unique ability to grow mid-battle. This lets Bardock reach his final power level of 14,000, likely making him the second strongest Saiyan at the time. Gas powers up 2 more times. We'll say the first time he grows to 13,000, but the second time he powers up too much and can't control it, so Bardock finishes him off. The flashback is broken up during the story, so let's go back to where we were. But before that, I'd like to ask you to consider subscribing. We're nearly at 10,000, which is an amount I would have never imagined reaching a few months ago. But we're nearly there now. And if you're already subbed, I really appreciate all the help you've given me so far. The action seems to be over, but the Heeters' big plan is completed, and Alec grants the same wish that Granolah made. However, Alec seems to have phrased his wish in a slightly different way that we'll go over when it becomes relevant. Gas, of course, became the strongest in the universe after Granolah, so his power shoots above his, to 24 quintillion. Despite that, since Gas isn't used to his new power, Granolah is able to win their fight with his superior skill. That is, until Alec removes Gas's seal, forcing him to transform. He loses control for a bit, but eventually regains it. I'd say the full potential of Gas's transformation is probably like a 2 times power up, so we can put him at 48 quintillion. He demolishes Granolah, though I'm not sure why they have Alec finish him off. It seems like we have a return of the all-powerful space gun. Someone this powerful shouldn't be getting hurt by a gun. It's ridiculous. Please, Toyotaro, for the love of Kami, please stop doing this. After that, Goku is no match for Gas, but he stalls him with clever tactics, buying them some time. But after they hear about Bardock's encounter with Gas, they go out for another round. It's worth mentioning that they never actually got healed, so they're not at their full power, but they have recovered enough to use their strongest forms again. But regardless, Gas is over double both of them individually. After they fail to win the 2v1, Vegeta takes over for a bit. He probably gets a decent amount stronger here, reaching like 30 quintillion. Now the conclusion Goku comes to is that using Ultra Instinct is getting in the way of him tapping into the emotion-based power boost Bardock used, so he decides to use the Omen state of Ultra Instinct instead. His power in Omen at this point would be 5 quintillion, but the boost from using his emotions is even stronger than the full Ultra Instinct form. Goku gets another 10 times stronger, reaching 50 quintillion. Gas throws everything, even the kitchen sink at Goku. But it's still not enough. Now, this is where Alek's wish kicks in. While Granolah asked to become the strongest, it seems like Alek wished for Gas to always be the strongest, since as soon as Goku surpasses him, Gas seems to lose even more of his lifespan to grow past Goku. He seems much stronger than Goku now, so let's say he's at 60 quintillion. Now, Granolah wakes up, and Goku holds off Gas while Granolah charges a big attack. The difference between Gas and Granolah here is actually similar to the difference between Piccolo and Raditz, when he used a similar strategy, so no issues here. However, it looks like Gas is going to take them out before he can fire his attack, but in the last second, Goku re-enters the full Ultra Instinct state. Now for an important question. Is the emotion power boost actually permanent, or is it just temporary? It's genuinely unclear, because if Goku could just re-enter the form after powering up, then why didn't he do it earlier? Goku stacking the emotions on top of the full form would put him close to 200 quintillion, significantly above Gas. Well, I think this scene was intentionally vague and confusing, so it's hard to say. This might even be foreshadowing the next step of Goku's training, so we'll have to wait for the manga's return to find out. After successfully beating Gas for the 3rd time, this guy gets up again. This time, his power continues to rise, even though he's already stronger than Goku and Vegeta. I wonder why. Oh, damn, Frieza's here. But I mean, obviously Frieza isn't on the level of Well, damn. I guess the reason Gas was growing in power was due to Frieza re-entering the universe, forcing Gas's body to keep trying to power up to surpass Frieza till there was nothing left. Now, Frieza apparently trained for like 10 years in another dimension in order to surpass Goku and Vegeta again, even obtaining a new form. I also want to clarify, he definitely used that new form to kill Gas. No, he didn't kill him in base. After that, he one-shots Goku and Vegeta at full power. Why didn't he kill them? This is genuinely out of character. Frieza's entire goal since the Tournament of Power was to eliminate his only threat. There's no reason for him to give them a chance to surpass him again here. Anyways, we don't know the full extent of his power here, so we can't rank him. And that brings us to the end of the Granolah arc. That brings us into the superhero storyline from the manga. Unlike the movie, we get an entire school life story with Goten and Trunks before the main event. They become Saiyaman X1 and X2. So, how strong are Goten and Trunks now? Well, last time we saw them, they were fighting the Cell Jr. on 17's island. Though, I don't actually think they're on Cell Jr. level, and I'm not just saying that because I don't think they should be that strong. I'm saying it because it looked like they were getting destroyed while fighting the Cell Juniors, but they're a lot older here, so if they were struggling before, we can say they're at Cell Jr. level in Super Saiyan now. So that puts their super forms around 9 billion, and their base forms 180 million. This first bit is all about Dr. Hedo and his Frankenstein-esque creations. They lack the sort of power Dr. Gero's androids had due to lack of funding. The strongest one we see is Beta number 1, but even he's only a bit stronger than a normal human. As when they get into a fight, he needs a mech suit that only seems to have average human level weaponry. We later see Police Krillin get involved, but as we said in the last video, Krillin didn't actually get any sort of extra power up in the manga, so he's still at 12 million. As they confront Hedo in his hideout, we see an actually strong android, the Dino Droid. This one is actually stronger than base Goten and Trunks, but it gets obliterated when they go Super Saiyan. So let's put it at 1.5 billion, which is actually very powerful. At a similar level as the strongest android from Dragon Ball Z, that being 16, who is around 2.2 billion. That leads into the actual superhero story with Gohan and Piccolo. Here, we get to see Hedo get out of prison, and it's a bad day for Krillin fans, as we see him get wrecked by a bee robot. Hedo's bee robot planetary? Well, we also see it get knocked down by a normal gun, so let's not put too much thought into this obvious gag scene. We also get to see the origins of Piccolo training Pan. Now, Pan is a tricky one. We don't really have a good point of comparison for her. During Dragon Ball Z's epilogue, we see her flying around the planet, so she's got some decent power later, but our character's travel speed has always been wildly inconsistent in this story. She's definitely above anything from the first part of Dragon Ball, but where she fits into Z is up in the air. After that, we get to see Hito's creations. No longer burdened by an insufficient budget, he creates the Gammas. Gamma 2 shows up and destroys Piccolo, who's probably reached like 25 billion by now. After that, Piccolo does some recon and learns of the Red Ribbon Army's plan. Piccolo thinks the Gammas are on Goku and Vegeta's level, but what does that even mean? Last time Piccolo saw them was against Moro, and Goku is way stronger than Vegeta then. I'm gonna ignore this statement, as I can much more easily just scale the Gammas later when we see one of them take on Gohan. We cut to Goku training with Broly. We see Goku training on par with Broly in base. This is questionable, as if we go by scaling from the Broly movie, base Goku is only at 2 trillion here, while base Broly should be at 600 trillion, without his Akari form. But I guess we're trying to train Broly to control himself, so it's not necessarily inconsistent yet. The manga also fixes this horrible mistake the anime version made, where Goku forgot what meditation is, despite literally doing it himself all the time over the course of the Dragon Ball story. While here, in the manga, Goku is just surprised to see Vegeta meditating. Now, despite the fact that I just commended the manga, it's about to take one of the most dumb, most baffling stances I've ever seen taken. Vegeta implies here that literally none of the villains in the last 2 arcs of Super actually have more power than Goku or Vegeta, and they're just more efficient with their energy. Guys, you can't write the Super manga for as long as you have, in the way that you've been writing it, and now decide you're going to retcon the entire concept of power scaling 7 arcs into the story. This is borderline insane. I could probably make an entire 20-minute video full of examples that clearly contradict this idea, but I assume I don't need to, as it should be obvious to literally anyone who's been keeping up with Super that this is an insane retcon to try and make. I really hope when Toyotaro returns to Super, he forgets about this insane concept, which I'm personally going to pretend didn't happen as we continue onward. We get into Vegeta and Goku's one-on-one match, and this here is why I don't think Bardock's emotion boost is permanent. Otherwise, Goku should be way stronger than Vegeta in base here, but if Vegeta does keep the Ultra Ego boost he got, then it explains why Vegeta's base was slightly stronger, and ultimately wins their fight. Vegeta got 50% stronger over the course of the last arc, putting him at 3 trillion to Goku's 2 trillion. Now that we're done with that, we see Piccolo has Shenron unlock his potential, so he can take on the Gammas, and then they set up a plan to lure Gohan into the fight as well. They go through the motions of fighting in each transformation, with Gohan's base of 50 trillion, up to his super form at 2.5 quadrillion, and finally, his ultimate form at 50 quadrillion, which seems to be stronger than Gamma 1 by a bit. So I have both Gammas at 45 quadrillion. This definitely means they're not on Goku and Vegeta's level. Since Gamma 1 is losing, Gamma 2 tries to help, but is intercepted by Piccolo. Piccolo responds with his own ultimate form, but it's a bit weaker than Gohan's. I'd put Piccolo at like 40 quadrillion, and it's unclear what Piccolo's base level is, since we don't see him fight in it. His ultimate form would probably be weaker than Gohan's, so that would also imply Piccolo has a higher base power. I'd put him somewhere at like 400 trillion, and say the ultimate form is 100 times his base. Then, when things start to look bad for him, Shenron's little bit extra kicks in, and Piccolo attains a new form. We'll get back to Orange Piccolo's power in a bit. He punches Gamma 2 so hard, he decides he should probably switch sides, and that initiates the activation of Cell Max. But before that, I just want to mention, I think it's really cool that going Super Saiyan seems to fix Gohan's bad eyesight. I mean, it makes sense. It multiplies all his stats by 50 times. Now, for Cell Max. We see Goten, Trunks, and the Gammas fight against Cell Max, but this doesn't necessarily mean they're strong or he's weak, as it said Cell Max is learning how to use his power as he fights. This also explains why characters like 18 and Krillin are able to help out, though it's still a bit dumb that they're still able to deal damage to Cell Max near the end of the fight. Beyond that, Cell Max is said to have a weakness programmed into his head as a failsafe. We see here that once he's given enough time to adapt to the pace of combat, Cell Max is actually a bit stronger than Orange Piccolo. Eventually, it looks like Cell Max finished off Piccolo, and that acts as the catalyst for Gohan to evolve further. Though, as of now, we still have no explanation for this form, and it kind of comes out of nowhere. that being the mighty El Blanco. He seems to be above Cell Max, and ultimately deals the final blow. That leads us into the final 3 chapters, and we can scale everyone's power levels due to the events here. We get to see Goku take on El Blanco. Now, how strong is Goku here? It's a bit confusing, as Goku decided he could push himself farther in the Omen state last arc, but here, he's back to using the full Ultra Instinct form. So is Goku still holding back? Or can he now use the emotion boost while in the full form? Well, it's unclear. If he's able to stack his emotion boost with full Ultra Instinct, then he would be at 200 quintillion. But I lean more towards the idea that he's actually holding back, and not using his strongest form against Gohan, so that brings us back down to 20 quintillion. I actually think Toyotaro ran into a bit of an issue here. Since he knew a lot of anime-only fans would read the last 3 chapters here, he essentially only includes content that appears in the anime. That's why we don't see Goku use the Omen state of Ultra Instinct, or Vegeta use Ultra Ego here. We see Gohan overpower Goku in Ultra Instinct, but unfortunately for Gohan fans, this actually puts Gohan below both Goku and Vegeta when they both go all out. That puts Beast Gohan at like 25 quintillion. However, there is still hope. Gohan specifically says he's boosting his power until he feels like he might lose control. That implies the Beast form is actually even stronger, but Gohan can't fully control it yet, so who knows how strong it can actually become. Now that we have a level for Gohan, we can work our way back. Gohan overpowered Cell Max's strongest attack with his own, so let's put Cell Max around half of Gohan's level, at like 13 quintillion, and Orange Piccolo put up a decent fight, so he's at like 10 quintillion. That means the only thing left for us to cover is Broly. Broly learns how to control his Super Saiyan form during his fight with Gohan. Now, how strong was Super Saiyan Broly during the movie? Well, he was actually only at 300 quadrillion. This might seem like an issue, but there's a pretty contentious debate about this in the community. In the Color manga, we never see Broly's Berserker form. This leads many people to believe it's not a thing in the manga. I think it's really weird for Toyotaro to arbitrarily decide that something that did happen in the movie just didn't happen in his version. But if we go by that logic, and just assume Broly's final power-up in the movie was a boost to his base and not a separate form, then that actually puts Broly's Super Saiyan form at 24 quintillion, which is below Gohan's level, which fits perfectly here. Alright, we made it all the way to the end. There was a good bit of bad power scaling here, but I actually want to say the second half of the manga was far more consistent than the first. Maybe Toyotaro is really improving as a writer. I think he did some great stuff with the actual stories of these arcs. Sure, some of the stuff that happened in the Granolah arc creates some unfortunate issues with previous lore, but I think the self-contained story has a good core and a nice message for its readers. In the end here, we're still left with so many unanswered questions, so hopefully we can get into some of that in the future. Anyways, I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you next time.